Hi everyone, Raphael Harry here, and you're listening to White Label American, a podcast where we hear stories from an immigrant or two, sometimes more. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to a new episode of White Label American. I'm your host, as always, Raphael Harry, and I'm honored to be joined by a CEO, a voice and coaching business expert, and someone who's going to give us a lot of fun and brilliant perspective on the entrepreneurial life from a freelancer perspective, a nomad. She's going to talk about being a nomad in two different ways: motherhood, voice we'll talk about art, but from a voice perspective, mental well-being, and you're going to get a whole lot more in this episode. With that being said, this is somebody who has been covered on Yahoo Finance. She's done corporate jobs. She's lost a job in a foreign country, and we're going to talk about that too. But she's also a mental health well-being specialist, and she's done a whole lot of amazing, brilliant things that you're just going to love this woman. You know, we met last year in Baltimore at the Afros and Audio Podcast Festival, and I hope we'll hang out again this year. So there's a lot more I can tell you about this woman, but you just have to discover it while you listen to this episode. So with that being said, let's get to meet Rokhaya Ndiaye. How you doing today, my sister?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me, Raphael. How are you?
I am well. You know, it's a beautiful day today. Just allergy season has come in a little bit earlier, but we are now in the thick of allergy season. So bear with me if you hear any sniffles and, you see me, got the tissue for my eyes. So
I keep prepared too. I have tissue. So we're both in the allergy season. Even though we're not in the same atmosphere,
yeah,
same thing happened. Oh my God.
yeah, we got
Sneezing every time.
a little tiny ocean separating us, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, just tiny.
Yeah, just tiny. Like one, I might just jump and swim across it one day. So
Yeah, I think I can see you from here.
yeah,
Yeah, I see you.
if you look closely, you see a guy wearing a purple hat just from across. Just waving.
You don't look as skinny. You don't look as skinny as when you were young, though.
No, I don't. I don't look.
I didn't know you young, but I know you were not like this. I have a feeling.
Now, if you want to know what Rokaya is talking about, you got to go listen to the Patreon episode. You hear a lot more about the skinny days of myself, yours truly. So, with that being said, Rokaya, can you introduce us to the meaning of your beautiful names and if there's a story behind them?
Rokaya, well, the way I'm pronouncing it is more the English biased way.
Hey, that's fine.
Rokaya is actually an Arabic name, which is pronounced Rokhaya.
Oh, yeah, you
So
got me there.
Rokhaya,
My Arabic pronunciation, I failed my Arabic
yeah,
classes.
well,
I can't.
I won't blame you because I actually have one of the hardest letters in my name. So it's like it comes from the throat. So yeah, don't try it. But at first, all I knew about my name being born Muslim is that I am named after the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, may peace be upon him, where one of his daughters was called Rokaya. And she actually passed like young of a illness, but she's always been, very close to her dad and so on and so forth. So it's a very popular name. It's pronounced differently, like in Nigeria, they'll say Rokhaya, they write it different ways but it's all derived really from that name. And I remember one day taking a taxi, and often it happens to me, even visiting Spain, different places, when I tell my name, people say, oh, my mother is called like that, or my sister is called Rokhaya. And that taxi driver told me that day that my name actually meant the elevated one. And I was like, wow, I love it. But at the same time, I don't know with already the attitude and the aura I have, which is already apparently too much. I don't know if I can walk around and go tell people, oh yeah, my name, oh yeah, it's the elevated one. So I usually try to skip that story by just saying, oh yeah, it's an Arabic name. It's a beautiful name, you know, it's somewhere
Yeah.
from Arab countries.
You keep
Um,
that inside of you and elevate, start the
yes.
elevation from there, you know.
I keep it inside of me. But Ndiaye, my last name is very common. Any Senegalese that see my name know that I'm from Senegal. So every time I get the comment, oh, you have such a unique name, I'm like, yes, unique on this side of the island. But in Senegal, the first and last name is very, very common. And even when I had advice from my marketing coach telling me, oh, just go with your name, people, it's unique, it's searchable. And I was like, yeah, try searching Rokhaya Ndiaye. You won't find me. You won't find me. So that's really what gave the birth to my business, where I decided to call it Rokaya Flow, not only because I think it represents my spirit in general, but also
Hmm.
because, yeah, we needed a differentiator because the full name wouldn't work out. It wouldn't work out.
I see. So what does Njaye mean?
Well, Njai actually comes from the Wolofo, because there's different Njais, but just
Yeah.
like in your culture, it is based on, the trade that you were in. So fishermen,
Mm-hmm.
jeweler. So there's different Njais. In my case, on my dad's side, is Wolofo, and we are fishermen. So that would have
Ah.
been his background or trade. Yes.
Okay, so it makes sense why we get along. Because my people are water people too. So yeah, you see? All right. I see
Yes.
why we got
I don't
along.
know. We get along. But do we get along, or we're just getting along for this meeting today?
Yeah, yeah, well, if we didn't get along, you wouldn't be here. We don't have Paula here to we don't have Paula to, as we say, throw sansan in the middle.
Oh, if you say the name Paula today, we're gonna have to reschedule another meeting. You know already. She's gonna have to come defend herself. Yeah, you're gonna have to put down minute number. I don't know which minute we're in, but she's gonna call us. I'm
No,
gonna
no,
get
no.
the call early tomorrow.
I praised Paula when she came on the podcast, so she's still on a high from the way I praised her. So she's
Okay, she's not come back yet.
no,
Okay,
she,
hopefully this is published before she come back.
Oh. So with
Oh,
that
I
being
tell you.
said, your people, your family was fishermen or fisher people, and I also know that there's a lot of nomadic people around your part of um, your part of Africa, right? So, but you guys were more into
Yes.
fishing than the nomads.
Yeah, well, that's on my dad's side. My mom was from Mali. Well,
Hmm.
I mean, Mali and Senegal, Gambia was all one
Yes.
empire, anyways. So a lot of people are from Senegal but migrated to Mali. So my mom is part of that family, and her last name is Wayne, which is one when you really pronounce it.
So how do you spell that?
And like my mom, Wane. But there's
Oh,
also different pronunciation of it, but
yeah.
they're same tribe.
Okay.
So my mom is part of the Tukulur tribe, which is more like in the rural, very pious people praying all the time kind of thing. They're the ones I would say were more nomadic compared to
Mm.
my dad, who's just from Senegal, which is right in front of the ocean,
Yeah.
fisherman village, and so on. So my mom actually never took my dad last name because I would almost want to say she considered her bloodline to be, we would call royal bloodline. So she's
Mm.
neither a jeweler or, and I think at some point it could have even been problem depending if the Njai, like if my dad was from Njai, like jeweler or things like that. That's considered, as you might know, a
Yeah.
lower bloodline.
Yeah.
So I guess because he was okay, I think the fisherman was more like his past ancestors, but at the level where my dad was, like he was an engineer, he studied, his father was a baker. So they kind of got out of that line in some way, even though your bloodline follows you.
Yes.
So in her case, she was part of Mali. So I kind of come from two different ethnical side, but still they were one at some point. But within that empire, I think there's over 50 different ethnical group
Mm.
in West Africa. Yeah, Mali, Senegal.
All right.
So yeah.
After this recording, remind me there's somebody who technically I've introduced you to him, but I've not officially introduced you to him. So remind me after the recording to um, set up an introduction between you and
Oh,
this person. Anytime you're in New
okay.
York, he will definitely have you on his show. So that he just reminded me. He's
Sounds
been on the
good.
show. He's from Mali, but he's from a Fulani tribe in Mali. Yeah.
All right. All
So
right.
moving on, can you let us know your place of birth and what childhood was like for you growing up?
So I am born in Senegal, at the principal hospital in the capital of Dakar. And then at the age of 3, I kind of migrated to Mali to be with my mom's side of the family, simply because my dad had the opportunity and got the grant to go to work in Canada. So I guess while they were dealing with paperwork,
Yeah.
my mom followed when I was about 3. So from the age of 3 to almost 7, I was kind of with family, grandmothers, aunties, while my parents were making their debut in the east of Canada. So my childhood has been great in the sense that I got to have a feel of different types of childhood. I think it helped me build resilience and coping skills that were very fruitful for me in my growth as a person and building my own, I guess, destiny in some ways. So I kind of belong to the generation that, yes, I'm not born in Canada. I was born in Senegal, but I went to Canada at a very young age. So most of my childhood was there, even though I do still have, memories of going to school for the first time back in Mali. I remember I have a picture with the doll that they give you, and then you take a picture with your teacher. My teachers, they look scary. I, I, I have the memory of arriving to Canada and not liking the food and throwing everything that was in my lunch bag. I remember I couldn't eat
Wait,
none of that food. It
what
didn't
age
taste
did you
good.
arrive in Canada?
I was almost 7. So I
Oh, okay.
arrived August 1995. I was 6, but turning 7 in October. So in the year of my 7th year, that's when I went and joined my parents. So about 3 years I was without them, and
Mm-hmm.
then we were a family again. And when we were there, like I started school almost over because I would mix different dialect and language and I would
Yeah.
mix everything, but I wasn't ready to fully go into grade 2, which what I was supposed to go in because of that language barrier.
Yeah.
So I was kind of put back into grade 1, and then I would have a French teacher come in for me, like once in a while or on specific days. What I really remember of it is she used to give me those cookies, they're like the scholar cookies, which I loved and is still one of my favorite cookies. But that was the time where I got to leave the classroom and go learn French. But this is also the time we could almost call it my assimilation time in
Oh.
some way, because this is where I also lost all my dialect, because
Mm.
at that point everybody was making the effort to speak to me in French so I can catch up the language. Now it's funny because I still remember the language. Like when people speak it, there's no problem for me to understand. But funny enough, I understand Wolof, which is Senegal.
Yeah.
But in Mali, they speak Tukulur and Bambara. And everybody thinks I understand those two languages because I spend most of my time there. But it's funny how human beings are created. I
Mm-hmm.
literally remember the first language and not the ones
The other two.
after. So
Ah.
whenever I go back on vacation, people are just speaking to me in Bambara, and I'm just like, I don't understand what you're saying, and they're just laughing in their head, like, this girl is just faking it. So she, of course, she understands. She was here at the age of 4, 5, 6, speaking like crazy, but I don't. But Wolof, even though at first I was shy,
Yeah.
complex about talking, as I grew, I talk more about it. But it's just like any language. If you don't practice it, it just
That's
doesn't
right.
come naturally. But if
Yeah.
you send me to Senegal for 3 months with a family that doesn't speak French, it would just come back just like that.
Mm.
So I got to have a childhood in Canada where it was very different, of course. But what was very nice about it is just that I love the fact that I got to live in different cities. So due to, cultural pay, racism, all those things that my own parents had to go through in their own journey,
Yeah.
it affected me in the sense that I always had to move. So we lived first in Quebec, and I think it's because my dad was really studying and finding himself. But of course, he wanted the best for his family. So at a young age, again, around the age of 9, 10, I moved to Montreal, still in the east of Canada. But it's like it became part of my blood print to
Mm.
always have to move somewhere, reinvent myself, make new friends, adapt to a different environment. So we did that a lot. We did that all the way to the age of 15, where I landed now in Winnipeg. And I spent 11 years in Winnipeg, all the way to the age of 26. And that's when I left the family cocoon on my own now at the age of 26 to start my own journey in Toronto.
Okay.
So all
So
that time.
before we come back to your adult years, all, before you left your family, it was all French part of Canada you lived in, right? Okay, so that
Yes.
explains the French, you picking up French. But at the same time, you were learning English in the French part of Canada.
Well, like Quebec, like I said, when I was like the age of 7 to 9, 10, I was focused on really learning the French.
Okay.
Then Montreal, English was more introduced to me just as a course you take in class, but nothing where I took it seriously enough that I needed it, and nothing advanced enough that it was challenging. So
Mm.
I remember the courses to be very easy. I think the first time English hit me is at the age of 15 when I moved to Winnipeg, which is majority English, even though I was still in French school. So I've been in French school all my life except for university. University is when I went into a English speaking institution.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I literally was in French school. But in Winnipeg now, the challenge is that English was taken seriously and people had a curriculum where they really learned their English. So I remember my first class in English, we were to read To Kill a Mockingbird. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, we have to read a whole book. Like, I've read short stories, one paragraph,
Yeah.
listened to some audiobooks, but I've never done okay, like, go read the whole book and do an essay and do this and that. So I remember being very frightened. And my English teacher actually felt it and took me on the side and really explained to me, if you have any question or if you don't understand, like, feel free to come to me. But I was a very shy and fearful child. So I remember I wouldn't really ask for help if I needed it or clarification. So I always try to do my best. I guess being an immigrant kid, you don't want to be noticed for being too different because already
Mm.
you're different.
Yeah.
So from that, we went to like Shakespeare. And I was like, excuse me, like we just finished a book and now we're going to do Hamlet.
Uh,
Like, to be or not to be, I'm not ready. But again, it just shows you how resilient human can be. And me being now in that position at the age of 15 and being forced to take English seriously, that's how English came about.
mm.
And again, I started losing then my French in the sense of like writing it. French has so many rules around verbs and plural and feminine and masculine. So if you don't really utilize it as much, you lose that skill. But
Mm.
talking was still there. I was able at that time to get bilingual job. I've always had like a better pay than my friends because I spoke French. So I knew it was an advantage. But yeah, Winnipeg groomed me to take English more seriously. And then it just happens in a puff of a moment. I always tell people the day I knew I was bilingual is the day I couldn't remember anymore if I went to see a movie in English or in French. So, as the minute you stop kind of translating in your head to one language, you know you're
Oh,
automatically like, now my brain has become officially
wow.
Englishized
Wow,
in some ways.
that's a great point right there. That's a great one. All right. I'll keep that in mind. I'm working on German learning right now, Deutsche learning. So it's not easy when you pass 40 and you start picking it up, but I'll get there one day. So
Yes,
I need to take you back
it's
to your childhood.
time.
One question I forgot to ask you: What at this moment? What do you consider your favorite childhood memory to be?
Ooh,
Yep,
that's a good question.
yep.
I think nothing beats it's probably my fifth birthday. It could have been my sixth, maybe the last birthday I've had in Mali before coming to Canada. I remember receiving shoes that I really loved. And I know I love them because all my picture for that birthday is me and my shoes. Like we don't even see who are the friends who attended.
Oh, what kind of
We
shoes were
don't
they?
even they were like those polishable shoes and they had a little bit of red, a little bit of black, and they were like there was some broderie on it. And it really
Ah,
matched my dress. Yeah, I guess I felt really prettier seen, if I have to describe it now as an adult. So I remember that birthday very clearly. And I think I've never celebrated birthday that way ever again because once I got to Canada, I don't really have friends. So by the time you make new friends, you have already moved to a new city. So I've never
mm,
had big birthday. Maybe when I just came to Canada, but even then, I didn't know any of the little girls or the little boys that were attending. It
yeah.
was just like my mom, friends, or whoever acquaintances that they made in those few years. So I would say that's really a memory, a great memory that I have that I'm surprised that I can remember from that young.
Wow. That's why I like asking this question. You never know what you get from from the guest.
Great question. Great question.
So when you decide to go to college, how did you decide on what you were going to study and what did you study?
I think for me, what I wanted to study all along before even getting to university, I mean, the African parent dream. I either wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor.
Yeah.
When I first shared the idea, I think with my grandmother said, "No, no, not a no lawyer, no lawyer, because you're gonna have to lie." And being Muslims, of course, she's like, "That's
Hey,
not an
it's not
option for
limited to
you."
only Muslims. My uncle was a lawyer. I think that
Right? But
now you remind me of my
so I was
late
like, "Oh,
uncle.
grandma."
so, so
Oh,
no, sorry to cut you. You reminded me of my late uncle. That's the reason why I never took law seriously because I think I was probably between 7 and 10. I mean I've shared this story before, and he was visiting one time, and I was like, Uncle, I think I can become a lawyer. I can become a good lawyer. He's like, really?
yes.
Do you tell lies? I was like, in my head, I was like, how do I answer this
I
question? I
do
was like,
lie. I wouldn't say,
no, no. It's like, do you know
yeah,
how to tell a
I
good
do
lie?
lie.
I said, I'm a good Christian, so I can't lie. No, no, I can't lie. It's like, oh, you can't make a good lawyer then. I was like, oh, okay.
Mm,
So yeah, that day from that day, I was like, oh,
yeah.
I can be a lawyer. But it was the lawyer that asked
That's
me
the day they
that.
kill our dream.
That was the lawyer that told me that.
They killed it.
Uh, so I was like, yeah, I don't want to become a lawyer. It was later I'll find out how law works with reading and all that stuff. I was like, oh, but I already killed that dream as a kid.
They killed it. So I don't need that dream didn't even follow me to university. It was dead already. Then the doctor, I think, was also killed in high school because one of my math teacher
Yeah.
wanted to be a doctor for kids, like pediatrician. It's
Yeah.
pediatric that they call it.
Pediatric. Yeah.
So he studied for it, he went for it, and apparently when you fail, because once you study everything, you're indebted and everything, you still have to do tests to
Yes.
be part of the association, just like lawyers, because they're professionals, right? So I remember he never passed that test. And he says most people that are passionate about actual becoming a doctor never make it and they end up in labs. So apparently if you cannot practice, you end up being just a lab person and testing all these things. And he never wanted to do that. So that's why he became a math teacher instead. So in my head, I was like, oh, what if I invest all this money, this time, especially because my parents never saved any money towards my studies, even though it was very clear that I had to study.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, going to university, I think I followed my natural inclination towards entrepreneurship because in anything I've always been either elementary school, high school, university, I've always been part of entrepreneurial groups. Like I've been part of junior achievement, which is pretty much you create your own service or product. We go in the mall, we try to sell it. So I've sell soap. I've been part of MLMs, trying to sell different things. I've been always loving to go to Toastmaster meetings and learn how to speak. So for me, I've already had that inclination, I think deep down, to be a motivational speaker of some sort, make some type of change. So there was also the influence of my dad being an engineer. It's like, go into engineering, go into this. But the university I attended in Winnipeg was actually high end in the sense that their engineering faculty, as well as pharmacy and business, were really renowned. Most of the time, they never offered direct entry. So you had to come with pretty high grades to get the direct entry or kind of make work on it in the first year, which they call year one of university. So what ended up happening for me, I naturally felt like people always came up to me to tell me their problems and I offered great perspective. Now I can almost say great strategies. So for me, I thought, oh, maybe psychology would be something I wanted to go in. So in my first year, I kind of just went general. But because I did the international baccalaureate in high school, it kind of credited me a few courses already for university one. So I was already good for math. I was already good for language because I had French, I had Spanish. I was good for physics and things like that. So I just took a general year and kind of fell in love with business and marketing. So I went that way, the route of doing a business bachelor degree, which was a minor in marketing and a major in international business. So that's where my natural inclination led me, even though, like I said, I was influenced to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer.
Hey,
But
but on the bright
entrepreneurship,
side, family was still
yes.
gonna be like, hey, there's business in there, so she's not. It's still acceptable, you know. We can't get mad with that, you know. There's still if you had just said entrepreneurship, what is
Whoa,
that? Well, I can see them say,
what is
what is that? What? Well, their job is that. Who gives you a job for entrepreneurship? No. Oh, we brought this one from Africa here.
that?
Oh, you want to kill us? You want to kill us? Ah, all this. Oh,
I want
we
to
should
waste
have.
some of their money,
We
find out
should
what I
have.
want to become.
They'll be telling one of their friends. They say, you see, that's why you should have kept. You should have let us stay in Mali. You should have don't be bringing them here too quick.
I tell you.
Yeah, our people, you know. But shout out to the parents for understanding. So
Shout out to them when they hear this one day. Shout
yeah.
out.
So you go through college and I'm not going to skip through college a little bit because I'm still got a bunch of questions. So uh you stayed with your did you stay with your degree or did you change your degree when after you began college?
Actually, I'm gonna have to say this is almost a declaration. Since people make declaration on your podcast, I won't. I won't. I guess take the tradition away. But no, I never finished my degree because of many reasons.
That's fine.
I think the first reason at 3 years into it, I remember sitting with one of the teachers and I was not doing well in his class, and that was accounting.
Mm.
I didn't like accounting at all.
Girl, you're not alone.
And sometimes the best advice or lesson, you don't even take them from your own parents or the people that brought you here, but you take it from, like, just some secret agent or angels, however you want to call them, that come along your path. But I remember that discussion shook me because I did not like accounting. And in order to major in certain things in that faculty, you had to do well in finance, you had to do well in accounting to
Yeah.
move on.
Anything
And if you
business
wanted to
related?
major in that, yeah, if you wanted to major in that, you would have to even do even better. And another thing that my faculty did is that your score is compared to the average of the class. So if
Mm.
the highest person has only 66%, he has an A plus, and then they go from there. So
Oh.
if you're in a class where people did well, it's again almost a competition. I think that's why I kind of went into marketing, even though it's also something I liked. But I never went into commerce thinking I had to be good at accounting and finance and so on. And he told me a truth, which was pretty much, he said, the language of business is accounting. So if I do not do well in accounting or do not like it, I simply won't do well at the faculty. So that was already one thing that influenced the fact that I never finished my degree. Secondly, life in general, where I had a cousin come and live with me who was not very, let's say, as focused or disciplined. And that, of course, had some type of influence.
Mm.
And third element, of course, is just the generational curse of the financial illiteracy that we have as kids that migrate to Canada, America, and have parents that are just not financially ready. So because nobody ever helped me save for it or advise me in those way, I also struggle to pay for a lot of my tuition because I live with my parents. So the
Yeah.
government, when you're asking for financial help, they assume that your parents are participating. So they calculate the whole thing based on their
Your
tax
wages.
report. So I remember
Uh-huh.
one year my dad had moved some pension. I believe he moved the pension from one account to an account, and it got registered just as revenue. So I remember his
Oh.
tax report was so high that year that I got $0 for tuition. And I didn't have any savings. My parents didn't have any savings. I was just going along. And unfortunately for me, I financed most of my university through credit cards,
Yeah.
which only came back to slap me
Oof.
in the way
Mm-hmm.
while I was going through university. So if you add all that stress of trying to find yourself, trying to find who you want to become, trying to pay for it, having also a part-time job, yeah, I mean, I made it 4 years in the faculty, but I have to say at some point I took a different direction. So, but still thankful of all the skills I learned. But I would have to officially, because it's not something I expressed verbally, say I am a college dropout, really, when you look at it.
I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
Mhm.
It's a step that it's not easy, especially for those of us who weren't born here. It's
Mhm.
not something that is easy for us to admit. We're all used to. It's like once you go to college, you must come out with a 4.0 GPA. like Nigeria first class. Otherwise, well, that's the reason why I didn't even go to my graduation ceremony because uh, my GPA was dropping, and it just felt like everything was crashing on me. It was like everybody was looking at my results, even though nobody was. It was just in my head. So I never walked the stage. I did it. I just denied myself the opportunity to walk the stage because it was just like, oh, my GPA is not that high. I can't go celebrate. Like, oh, dude, why didn't you go celebrate? Go celebrate. You for my diploma, my bachelor's. I didn't. I was just like, no, because every other person was scoring so high. Every other person is this. Everybody's that. And so I just no, because meanwhile, I didn't realize that was my disabilities that was beginning to catch up with me. So, of course, I wouldn't be able to concentrate in class. My body was going to be because I'm not treating it. So, of course, all these things will stop because you've been going, just been piling books and studying, thinking like, yeah, I can beat everything. And then one day the body is like, all right, switch off the button, and then you're like, yeah, no matter how much you read, how much you can't. So when, when I finally put two and two together, I was like, oh, and one of my deans was like, oh, you can go back and retake all your exams again. You can go talk to the school. I was like, hell no, I ain't go. I got a degree. I'm good.
I'll take the GPS.
Don't worry.
I'll take that
I don't
GPA
care.
2.0, whatever. I'll take it.
Anybody want to come? That's your business. You want to laugh at me? I'm like, do you have a degree? No. Okay, go. Yeah, go. You go take the exams and all that. So, yeah. So I get it. It's not. I haven't tried it. Like right after I graduated, I started a master's right away. It's not even a master's. It's not a course I wanted, but it was just like you gotta be that guy, get all the degrees and all this. So they say African Nigerians, you got, and then within 2
Tell
months, I
you,
was
the
just like,
it's
what?
too much.
I'm
It's really
struggling
too much.
because like 2 years got diploma, 2 years got bachelor's, 2 years you must get masters, and I'm there struggling in class. I'm like, man, no.
Oh, don't forget getting married and having the
Oh
kids
yes, you get
because there's that.
get married,
Oh,
buy a
a
house,
woman really.
you buy a house, you build a
Have
house back
adventurous.
home. You get all that thing. Get a great job, or you start business, or you go run for office. I'm like, golly. So nah, it
Win
was
a Nobel Prize.
uh
Don't forget, you have to win a Nobel
yeah,
Prize too.
Nobel Prize.
All this before the age of 30.
So I was just like, nah. So
The pressure.
I hit up one of my professor and said, "Nah, I can't continue for this master's program. I would love to. You guys are great, but it's not your fault, and I shouldn't be here. To be honest, I need to go take care of myself. I shouldn't have signed up for this program. Great program, but I don't think it's my program." And I withdrew,
Yes,
and I have not
yes,
gone back. I'm
yes.
still looking at the program. I try. Maybe I'll go for a PhD eventually, but I just need the space in here and in my head and yeah, but it's something I really want to do that I will do, and not because other people are doing it. Even my bachelor's, it wasn't the bachelor's, not the degree that I wanted that I ended up doing because what really wanted was in communications. And last minute, I
Okay.
got what all Nigerians were going for because when I said my degree, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, there's jobs there. That's a good degree." I was like, "Oh yeah, people like it." So I said, "Okay, I will go for that one." That's what I was like, later on, I was like, "Why did I do what?" I used to be like, "I would never do something like this." So nah, it's not. No. It's go for what you want. 'Cause at the end of the day, it don't matter if you can study English, you can study religious studies. y- you can get it. You can get doors will open for you in anything. You can. It doesn't. People will be like, "Oh, don't study arts and whatever." I'm like, I've met people being successful in anything. My friends, the network you create is the network. It's people you know that will open doors for you. That's what the people you know. I met somebody before pre-pandemic. She was like, "Oh, I studied English." She's working at one of the biggest museums in New York. Yeah, any six figures. Everybody there was like, I studied mathematics and accounting, and I've been paid 50K, and you study English? Yeah. I mean, don't burn
Oh
yourself out.
no, no, but it's crazy. I think I was disappointed in the system too, because you have to line up weeks ahead to get all those paperwork for financial assistance
Yep.
ready. You're trying to get all that ready. You line up only to be declined.
Mm.
And talking about disability, I even realized, because for me, my GPA would go down. I'm very good at participating in class. I'm very good at, doing like logic, algebra, anything. But for me, it's when we had the final test, and in university, it's always in those big gymnasium.
Yeah.
I get distracted. So sometimes I'm thinking about something for 30 minutes and then I realize, oh my God, I'm in an exam setting. I'm supposed to be looking at the paper. So
Mm.
I also discovered that I had attention span like problems. And I only discovered 4 years in that they actually offered to some student to take tests in a small office with one teacher supervising, which I would have done way better
Yeah.
than in a big gymnasium setting. So all those things, they don't even, if you don't know yourself, if you don't have the right support,
Mm-hmm.
you pay for your ignorance in some ways. So I really paid for my ignorance in some way, because even if I lived outside of my parents' house, then they would have not assumed that they were participating, and most of the money I would have got from the government, most of it would have been grant, which I don't have to pay back.
Yeah.
But the fact that I decided to live with my parents, go to university, having no funds, I think it was a big lesson. It was a very, very big lesson for me.
Yeah.
So,
It's
yeah.
it's crazy how we can get punished for our ignorance, and it's why over here I'm still on. I'm an advocate for student loans being um yeah, being counseled, because yeah, like me, I was, the only fortunate thing for me is that I did not have to pay for my university because of my service, my military service. I still got a few left, like a few months left, because if I hadn't done the master's program,
Mm.
I probably would have had 1 year of education left. But it is what it is. That was, nobody put a gun to my head to say go for the masters. But um, I know
Yes,
people
it's
who
part
are
of the
like,
journey.
oh, people don't deserve their student loans to be counseled. I'm like, no. I served my country, and yes, my country gave me free education in return. However, not everybody will have the opportunity to go through military service. That doesn't mean that uh, f- people do not deserve their student loans cancelled. There's multiple reasons. A lot of people um, were like in your shoes, stayed with family. It should have helped, but were punished for that. They got student loans. There are people who the banks took advantage of them, that their loans deserve to be cancelled. And it makes a huge difference, whether it's 10,000, 20,000. That's why I'm happy that my good friend, Joe Biden, is a very good friend of mine, be canceling them loans. So keep canceling them loans, my good friend, Joe Biden. We talk once in a blue moon, it's different. If you want to find out how
Yes.
is my good friend,
You have great connection.
yeah, if you want to
Joe
find out
Biden
if you want
is
to
your
find out
connection.
how is my good friend, go buy my T-shirt or contribute to my PayPal, and I'll tell you, or join my Patreon. For as low as
Joe
three
Biden, if
dollars.
you're hearing this, come support White Label American. I tell you, you
Oh
change your
well,
life.
he's yeah, no, yeah, he'll sign up. He'll sign up. Him a very good friend, but we don't need to spend too much
Ah,
time on
all
that.
right. Oy.
So we don't have too much time left. So let's bounce through some other stuff that you did. So how did you begin? You know what? Let me rephrase that. You ended up working overseas, and I think that's tied to your mom's side of the family, because that tribe's a little bit nomadic. So I think that started displaying in you. So how did you end up, from college to overseas, and what was the first country that you ended up working in?
So when I left, like I said, the family cocoon, I lived in Toronto. Ontario, Canada. And that was really my first time by myself, really getting a taste of what it feels like to work for someone. So I was lucky enough to had a lot of work experience, call centers, insurance companies. But one of the jobs that really changed, I would say, my lifestyle, but also aligned with my nomadic ways at the time, was that I worked for a train passenger corporation. So
Hmm.
as an employee, you start off pretty much as an attendant. So let's think about like a plane
Yeah.
where you serving the people, serving food. But on a train, it's a bit more complex because the journey, of course, is longer. And where I started, because there's different lines in Canada, just like Amtrak. So the line I was on was a 4 day journey. So technically it's
Four
3 nights
days.
on the train and 4 days, yes, to reach. So we would
Oh.
leave central Canada, which is like Winnipeg, all the way to Vancouver, which is all the way west of Canada. So just above Seattle and
Oh
so on.
wow.
So that trip on the train is a 3 day, 3 nights, sorry, 4 days. So that really aligned with my lifestyle because I get to, pack my bags. Who has a job where you go and you're on a train and,
Wow.
you're going to go in an adventure. So it was a really fun job. But at the time, I never thought of it that I liked it because of that freedom that I was always looking for, which I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't finding in a 9 to 5, right? So even though I escaped the whole school to go work, to be able to pay bills and make a life of itself, Toronto was my really first taste because I did it just for the summer when I was in Winnipeg. So my last summer before I moved out of the family cocoon was that job. And that's the same job that gave me enough saving to go explore Toronto. So my adventure to Toronto just started with me and a friend who worked the same job. And she's like, oh, we have enough saving, let's leave the small rural city and let's go try a big city. So Toronto was the choice we made. So Toronto is like the New York of
Yeah.
Canada. So we just went there for a summer and the same company was hiring. So when they hired, that part of the line is more commuter based. So it's more people going to work here and there. So mostly I would be sleeping at hotels, but I wouldn't be on a train for 3 days. So it would be sleeping at a hotel or sleeping home, but I was in a constant shift where I'm still never really home.
Mm.
And the advantage of it is that I was what we call on call. So if I answered my phone and did a few trips and I had to accomplish 160 hours, so about 40 hours a week, I was then not obligated to pick up my phone. So this is where the lifestyle of me visiting abroad started, meaning I would do my hours as fast as I could. Because one thing that people don't realize is that passenger trains in Canada do not own the rails. So it's the freight trains that own the rails. So because they
Oh.
own the rail, they have priority. So most of the time, how the journey really look like is that we get stopped on the side and then we have to let all the freight trains go by. And then
Ooh.
at night, especially on the long journey train, they kind of try catch up time by going really fast. So not really the most comfortable thing, but it's mostly people that are retired that pay for that comfort and just enjoying the scenery. Whereas in the East, in Toronto, it's more like commuters. They're not very patient. They all have somewhere to go, somewhere to be. And so it was a change for me, but it was still the same lifestyle of, me having the freedom to just do my hours and go away. So in the year of 2017 is when I got injured at work. And as a child, never really broke a bone. So never really understood the whole thing about going on disability with a corporation. So that's the year I really learned that system. And I would say that system really changed my mindset about everything because as I told you in high school, in my childhood, I always craved entrepreneurship because of that freedom of not being stuck at
Yeah.
something. So when I had that opportunity to actually take a break from corporation, because let's say since 2014 to 17, I was just working, make my proof, When I moved to Toronto, I was able to go up the ladder. So I became a service manager. So at that point, I'm dealing with like ticketing, making announcement, talking with the engineers. I am in charge of a whole team that's serving food. We have two classes going on. We have the business class, and the economy class, just like on a plane. So that really opened my horizon when I got injured and I got treated like I was almost lying about my injury.
Mm.
So now I understand the umbrella of it, which is pretty much just the corporation and the insurance fighting on who's going to pay you because they have to determine if the injury happened at work or if it happened because of me, so on and so forth. But in that 4 months, it really took a toll on my mental health because I remember I lived right downtown, main young line, and it's very noisy. But because it's a seniority based job, so you have a certain schedule. If you're senior enough, I would be the newbie. I would always get the long weekends, working weekends. I've never really been home on a weekend, so I remember a Friday night being in my apartment, and then wondering why is it noisy? Like, why is my apartment noisy? And then I realized, oh my God, I haven't been in this apartment on a Friday
Mm-hmm.
in probably 2, 3 years. I'm always in my apartment during the week.
Yeah.
And they put you on what they say on a modified duty. So for me, who's on the train and doing all this traveling, being put on modified duty is pretty much working at the station. So
Wow.
now my role switched to like me sitting at a little bench and having some crazy people come up to me and pretty much telling me, where is the city train? Where is this? Because we were in the big central station. That's where we had our branch, but there's also the branch of the city train. There's the branch to go to, rural areas of
Uh
the
huh.
city. And it was under construction too, which didn't help. So most people would get lost. It went to the subway,
Mm.
went everywhere. The signage wasn't good. So most mornings, it's just people yelling at me like, where is this? I can't find nothing in this central station.
Yeah. Everybody
And
took their
I'm dealing with my
frustration out
own.
on you.
Exactly. And I have to say, it wasn't different on the train, but at least on the train, I guess I had somewhere to escape. And just being stationary in a very long time, I
Yeah.
hadn't done that. And dealing with my own injuries and also dealing with, again, financial, because at that point, while they're deciding who's going to pay you, I'm not getting paid. But my
Oh.
lifestyle in Toronto is a demanding lifestyle, like my rent was high, my water was high because I live in this old building, but people are collecting rent. They're collecting their rent. So for me, that's what prompted my first mind shift where I was like, why am I killing myself and giving all my sweat and energy to a corporation that won't even look out for me when I'm actually incapable to perform my duties to 100%. So that's where I got the big turn off of like what am I doing here? Because all this time before, I've never been someone who's late. I've never been someone who had to be called in the office. So that year I met who I would call my first entrepreneur, in the sense like she was a travel agent and she's like, oh, you should just book a trip to go somewhere. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I haven't taken no vacation. And in my head, I guess I felt rebellious at the time. And this is not a narrative I like to promote about Jamaicans being rebellious or anything like that, but they do come from a culture of resistance. So there's this sense of aggressivity that people see in them. But in my head, I was like, oh, where's the most rebellious place I can go right now? Because I'm pissed. And I was like, oh, let me go to Jamaica. That's the place that it's been in the back of my mind all these years, and I've heard all these stories. But let me just go and do it, and I guess face that fear that's been brainwashed to me about like, oh, be careful, don't go alone there,
Yeah.
don't do this, don't do that. So that year, I think fear just became second place. And I decided, hey, I'm taking that trip. So I remember like booking the trip for my birthday in 2017. So that was October 2017. And that's how I went and visited the first time, not knowing anybody here. I was lucky that the nature of my job on the train, there was already a lot of other women who actually do the whole living half of the year there and living half of the year in Canada. So they're the one who introduced me to my driver, introduced me to the different places I could stay. And this is how I visited for the first time. And my driver ended up being now my. So at the
Oh,
time, it was just a referral
look at that.
of a tour operator, right? But if anybody asks, I did not fall for the driver. The driver fall for me. So
Hey,
just so we make it clear, yeah.
hey. All right, part two. I'm gonna get that love story. Because yeah, we got to. There's definitely got to be a part two where we're going to talk about the love story. But I got to go through a few fun questions quickly so I can wrap up. So, why is investing in your mental well-being important to you, and how has that benefited you?
I think for me is when I started investing in myself because after that first trip back in 2017, I, like I said, met my husband here. We get married, and I decided in 2020 to actually, take the leap and try to live somewhere different and see what I could do. And one of the things that had prompted this decision is that same job that we're talking about back in 2019, I lost a job. So once I did, and that's another crazy story, I decided to bet on myself. So I decided, okay, I've always heard about voice acting. I've heard about those different things that might be a passion of mine. So let me try it. So that year when I went to Jamaica in 2020, I just invested in myself, took a course. And there was this particular course that really took my attention, which was coaching. Because what I realized at first, I had positioned myself when I founded Rokaya Flow as an editor. So you could book my services to edit videos, edit audio. But I found that the relationship was very one sided. So most people were looking for the cheapest editor out there. And if they
Yeah.
found somebody else cheaper, they moved on to that person. But when I invested in that coaching business of mine, what I really liked about that community is that they were very focused on healing.
Hmm.
And at first, I didn't understand. I'm like, I'm here to learn about coaching. Like, why are we doing all these things about feeling this thing in my body and finding out how I feel? And I think for me, I realized even though I switched from editor to a podcast coach, I realized that my clients that were dealing with either self doubt, their own trauma, their
Mm-hmm.
own mental health issues, were unable to reach their goal. So that's for me where my passion for coaching came in. That's where I really saw my call of making a difference because of all these skills I had learned, all this resilience I had, you know, in my luggage from moving places to places, as I told you, having to reinvent myself. I think that all became one: entrepreneurship, the freedom, the reinventing myself abroad. And when I took that course, that's when I think I really got anchored that even for my own journey, I left Canada for Jamaica only to find out that wherever you go, here you are. So I still had to deal with my own self doubt, my own fears. And even though I probably look courageous to a lot of people for leaving comfort for something different, for me, it's always been important for me to feel comfortable wherever I am,
Mm-hmm.
wherever I do. And I think that's a big, big pillar of entrepreneurship because still in the science and the statistic, entrepreneurs are still the one with highest mental health issue,
Yeah.
the highest, everything because it's a very lonely journey when you really think about it, until you find your community. Like, yes, it was so nice that I went to Baltimore. It was awesome that I heard about Afro and audio and be able to meet people like you. But in the beginning of the journey, I'm looking for you, right? You're
That's
looking
true.
for me.
That's
And
true.
it's only once you understand the story, or I guess when I really understand the worth of sharing my story, that then it becomes just an alignment. It's no longer me trying to sell a business and a service. It's really I'm selling my story. And hopefully by sharing my story, I can inspire others who are in that line. So for me, it was really, as I always tell people, it became a healing journey. And for me, coaching is a passion because every day I can see my client heal and take that little step and that little step that leads them to really believe in themselves, but really believe also in their worth. And sometimes it starts with somebody else believing in you first. And hey, by all means, go with that. For me, I think God put me in a position where he didn't give me that time, like, oh, let me budget and like make a plan of what I'm gonna do. He just threw me in there. But he knew I had the skills because he has been training me for many, many years. So all this to say, not to underestimate the journey you've come so far. So when I share my story, you can see that all those little things I learned towards one day actually living the dream of having built my own thing. So I remember when I became a mother abroad, that was one of the things I was really proud of. I was like, oh, I didn't have to return to a job. I didn't have to call in sick when I was pregnant. I didn't have to be feeling ashamed because the environment I was in working on the train, as a woman, as soon as you were no longer working on the train, it was assumed that you were pregnant. So thank God I never had to go through all that. So even though, it was the beginning of a new journey, it really became our motto, like you can't start anything until you've checked yourself first.
Very, very glad you shared that. That's true. That's true. Many big. That's yeah,
Sitting slowly.
yeah, yeah. So, thank you again for sharing your time with me. But before I let you go, two questions I got to ask you. You're in Jamaica
Yes.
right now, and let's say I come to Jamaica. What's one meal that I got to eat for me? Well, there's two questions in one. So let's say I come to Jamaica right now. What's one meal I got to eat to say I've been to Jamaica according to you? And let's say I land in Senegal, in Dakar, Senegal right now. What's one meal I got to have before I leave Dakar? So,
Ooh, that's a great question, but I guess I can only answer for myself. I mean, Senegal national dish is like the chep, which is rice chep,
mhm.
but you can have like chebu wech or chebu. Like chebu wech is like white, and you can have it also like jollof rice, like the comparison with Nigeria, which is in
Right,
red, right?
you have to say it like that. You should say it with your chest because who invented jollof? Who
No,
are the people that
no,
invented
because
jollof?
you know how the Nigerians they make the best
No,
jollof
no,
rice,
no.
but
On this
I don't
podcast,
think
we
so.
like to
They don't let.
say facts.
I,
Who invented
okay,
jollof?
so let me tell you
Is
the fact.
your people
Let
that
me tell you the
invented
fact.
jollof.
You
So,
don't cook your tomato. You
hmm?
don't cook your tomato all the way, so that's not jollof rice. But anyway, this is why we don't call it jollof rice. Eh? So let's
Okay,
not get it twisted. Let's
okay.
not
So
get it twisted.
you people, it's
All
not
to say,
jollof.
all to say that's a national dish, but
Okay.
my preference always been peanuts too. So if
Oh, I
I'm in
love
Senegal, I
peanuts
need
too.
to have a mafe. I need to have a mafe, and I like my mafe with some okra in it.
Mm. So I
So
can
that's
put
my
okra in it.
preference.
I never tried that.
If you're in Jamaica, if you're in Jamaica, I say you have to try the national dish just because
What's the national dish?
ackee and ackee and saltfish.
Oh, it's fish. I don't know about that.
But
What kind of fish?
you know the saltfish, the
Is it
very
yeah? Is it fresh
fish,
or
dry fish.
roasted or what? How's it prepared?
No, when you take the fish and you dry it and you
Oh,
salt it
dry.
and you let
Okay,
it dry.
I might be able to eat that.
Yeah,
I'm
saltfish.
very
You
particular
know
on
it.
how I eat my fish. I'm from a riverine
But this
tribe, but I
fish,
don't eat fish all the time. Yeah,
or
I'm that guy.
no, but this fish is how you call it? You wash it off, you boil it, and then you cook it to take the taste. Because if you eat it just like that, it's just salt. It don't taste
Oh,
like anything else.
okay, all right,
Not like fresh water fish we're talking about. We're talking about dry fish.
okay.
Dry fish. But the reason I say the ackee is because
Mm-hmm.
the ackee is actually a national fruit. And if you go in anywhere else than Jamaica, they don't eat it because it's a poison.
Oh,
But the secrets in Jamaica that most people, I guess, especially if you go to like Haiti or I don't know the parts of Africa where ackee grow because it doesn't grow everywhere. But the fruit has to actually open. So when it open, you can see the black seed in it and remove that. But if you don't let it open and you force it, that's when it's poisonous.
girl, you said at poison. That's where you missed me. I was like, girl, I'm good. I don't need that. Just give me goat roti. Thank you very much. Uh, yeah, but peanut stew, you had me at peanut stew because that's what we call granite soup in Nigeria. Yeah, I'm fine. You know what? I think I'll go cook
Well,
peanut stew tonight.
Asians are scared of Jamaican just because of that. Because when they see them eat them, they say, "Oh my God, look, they might eat it
Yes,
and they're not
I'm
dead."
a Haitian. Some people think I'm Haitian. I agree. I'm Haitian right now. Add me to the list. I'm
Yeah,
Haitian.
you should just try the curry goat. You're good.
Yeah,
You
I'm
should
good.
just get the curry.
I'm good there.
Yeah,
All right.
the curry goat. Will do.
Next question, which will be the second to the last question. Everyone who appears on this podcast is considered a dancer. If you claim you don't dance, we'll stop recording right now and we'll kick you off the show. So, we need you to give us
Well,
3 songs that will keep you, well, since you're someone that travels, 3 songs that keep you dancing during your travels. However, you can't go and be naming Bonner Boy. I know you was going to go do that. He's disqualified. You can't name Davido. You can't be naming those type of people. You can name one song from. You can't name Buju Banton. You can't be naming.
well,
Yeah, you can't name. I mean, Patra. You're too young to know Patra. So if you name that, I will accept that. But um, yeah, so 3 songs that can keep you dancing. Name the artist with the song. You can't name Beyonce's latest country music. I love it. The Cowboy Carter, but she's too popular. So you can't name the most popular artist. So you can name 3 songs. One from let's see, one from Mali, one from Senegal, and if you want to name
well.
one from Canada or Jamaica, that's fine. But yeah, so let me make it easy for you. One from Mali, one from Senegal, one from Jamaica or Canada. Or if you want to make it 4, I can give you 4.
First of all, no. First of all, you're not making it easy. I don't listen to any Malian music, so we can
What?
eliminate Mali already.
Um, the
Ah,
the views of
yeah,
Rokaya are the
no.
views of Rokaya alone. People in Mali, if you want to attack her, I'll give you her email. You
People in
can
Mali,
write to
people in Mali
You can write to
don't even
Rokaya.
listen to their
Don't,
own music.
I love Malians. I supported you people up till you face Cote d'Ivoire in Nations Cup. That's all. But
Eh,
so I love Malian
yes.
music.
Okay.
I'm not like Zoo. Zoo
So
didn't
that
like Mali
that makes
music
one
too.
of us.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
mhm. I love Malian music.
that
Okay,
makes one of us.
all right.
Eh,
So from
no, I
Senegal.
like Malian music. Don't get me
It's too
wrong.
late.
Don't get
It's
me
too
wrong.
late.
I
We
like
had
Malian
you.
music,
We
but
had
it's not.
you. You didn't name
No, no, no.
anybody.
You
Next,
said you
Senegal.
said you
Senegal.
said
Next,
you said
next. Give us from
that I dance
Senegal.
to. You said that I dance to. Okay, the last time I listened to Malian music was Sidiki Diabate, and I dance. So I dance till the music done. It's done.
So
This is what I
why
mean that
didn't
I'm
you
done with
mention
Mali
that?
because that's old music. That's not recent. That's not
So,
recent.
okay, some people just like Wahala. See, so okay, all right.
I tell you. Anyway, let's move
Even
on.
if you name,
Let's move on.
my good friend
Same thing with
if you
Senegalese
name my
music.
good friend in France, what's her name? Aya Nakamura, Aya Namura. I would have accepted for
Oh,
Mali.
ah. So she's singing about you when she said Dudu. See, it's you that she's singing about.
Yeah, well, she like me, man.
Ah,
She
ah.
can't help it. But I couldn't afford 2 wives. That's why that's why she's single. Otherwise,
Well, I want
that's why
your
she's
first
just
wife
my
to
good
hear that.
friend.
You wanted to replace her. You wanted to take a second one.
I mean,
Danger.
it's not my fault that she's beautiful like that, but that's why she's just my good friend. You know,
Yes, it's not your fault. I
it's
have
not
to
my
say,
fault.
God made her good. Eh?
She's very.
But I don't listen
First
to
time I saw her, I
Senegalese
said,
music either.
if to say I was rich, I would have been in Paris right now.
Me, I'm gonna give you the three type of music I listen to, and not the music I listen to each country because I don't listen to
Okay.
specific country.
All right.
I
Give.
listen to Afro. I listen to Afro house.
Uh,
So I like songs like Lolo by UG Official
okay.
or Get Up by SARS. Those are my type of music. If you don't hear me listen to Afro house, I'm listening to blues. So me, I'm
Blues.
old school. Yes, blues,
Which
old
country are
school,
those
old
artists
school.
from?
Well, if you believe that we all come from Ethiopia, I'm gonna say the Ethiopians.
Oh, yeah. I like how you diplomatically just dodged the answer. You know what? I mean, let me call my boy in Senegal, so they'll put you in the cabinet too.
Well, if I'm the part
They'll
of the Mali Empire, I have to say,
they'll add you to the
that's where we come
Senegalese
from.
cabinet. All right, you've named two. Did you give us a third? What was the third artist?
I said UG official,
UG
and I say
official.
blues. Blues is
I'm,
not
I'm going to check
blues.
out these three songs. If they don't keep me dancing, we'll call you back, and you have to face
Oh,
query on your in your part two episode.
all right.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
If not right now in my head, I am dancing on Kulosa.
Kulosa.
If that can help.
Okay, that one sounds like a
Yeah.
dancing track.
Let's.
We'll,
Acha,
we'll reduce the query
that's
by
why the
half. We'll reduce the query by half. So, final question. We appreciate you again for giving us your time. What would you like to leave the
thank
audience with?
you.
It's your freestyle moment. Go.
My freestyle moment. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for sharing narrative that are not the, as we say, the everyday narrative of how we. I don't know if I could say I'm a first generation, but we kids of migrated parents have found our own journey and pioneered, and that it's possible for anybody if you put your mind into it and you make sure you're always investing, like I said, in your own skills and betting on yourself. It can get it can be worse than what you're living already in a system where we're really controlled by fear. So for me, I think having made that decision to take the leap, believing in myself and starting my own business and being able to help other mompreneurs, follow their own destiny, their own path, and not just follow the success narrative or mental health that's put out there, I would say do it. So if there's something I can leave with your audience is definitely bet on yourself and take that leap, take that step towards your dreams. And even if it takes 40 years, it will be better than investing 40 years into a corporation that can't even pay you the lifestyle that you have accumulated over the years. So this is not about reaching a lifestyle that you can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely about setting up the values that you want to uphold and pass down to the next generation.
Awesome. Hey, and sometimes it's about even being acknowledged. So if they don't even acknowledge you too, that matters. So thank you again for
Mhm.
those beautiful words. And where can the people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and I go by Rokaya.flow. Sometimes it might be Rokaya_flow, but you'll find me. And looking forward to connect. And we're also looking to start doing some retreats in Jamaica in the next year coming. So you can follow up for that. And we'll also be launching our podcast, Pod in Healing, which will share the stories of nomadic people that have gone, you know, through adversity and challenges and create their own path and destiny, as I've mentioned before. So follow at Rokhaya.flow.
Awesome. And you have the links in the show notes as usual. And thank you very much for being with us. As my people say, umbana. And how do you say thank you?
Which I can tell you in Arabic and Patois,
Yeah,
in French.
what's patois? Yeah, I don't think I know patois for thank you.
It's a thing in Patois.
Oh, okay. I know
Or
Arabic.
if it's in
Shukran.
Patois, I guess it would be, yeah, shukran. If it is in real Patois, I guess it's respect.
Oh,
Like
okay.
you say respect and
Respect,
manners.
respect,
Yeah,
man. All right.
yeah, respect.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that means I've been saying thank you in Patois a long, long time ago. Shukran, my shukran, dankeschön. There was one.
Merci in
Merci
French.
beaucoup.
Let's do it all. Merci
Yeah. I forgot there
beaucoup.
was one from Gambia that somebody, my former guest, taught me. It will come back to me later on. Nagode, Eshegon, and Dalu. Yeah, Asante Sana. Those are the few that come into my mind right now. I know a lot more. They will come later on. So,
Wow.
gracias, and I'll see you on the next episode. Keep the love coming in. Don't forget, if you have something to say, you can send us an email or leave your comments on the episode on the website. Or you can leave a voice note. Go to www.whitelabelamerican.com. Leave your voice notes there. And, the fastest way to reach me is on Patreon or, send the PayPal. The higher your dollar, the faster it will get into my ear too. I like that. Don't no crypto. I don't accept that crypto thing. That's the rule. I'm your host, Raphael Harry. This has been my pleasure. Thank you for the privilege of your company. Thanks for listening to White Label American. If you enjoyed the show, we'll appreciate if you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. If you have any questions, comments, or have someone who will be a good guest on the show, or you want to be on the show, send us a message at whitelabelamerican@gmail.com. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at White Label American. Thank you for your support.